Welcome back to our pleasant little hell fort. This time I'll be finishing off the flow of the level, letting the player get to an exit, and then perhaps we'll go back and do some more details as well. So I want to start off by getting the player to go through an outdoor section up here, or at least a section that's near outdoors. So I'm going to just give myself a bit more room to work with by dragging that vertex. And then I'm going to build some stairs, maybe 96 wide this time with 16. Copy and paste that a few times. And my goal is going to be getting to the height of this platform. So we're up here at height, floor 72 down in the bottom left there, and I need to get to floor 136. So let's see where this gets me. Going to do shallow stairs this time, just 8 units up, one scroll of the mouse wheel up. What should I use? Let's continue using these sort of... I'm colorblind, so I don't know what color this is, but they're sort of rocky, bricky steps. I'm going to move this a bit further out, actually, so that I have room for my division using the support texture. Control-Shift-R for that. We're going to bring the ceiling down a bit. Let's see. The player can fit into gaps 56 units high or higher. Usually you want it to be a bit higher than that. I think height 64 might be pushing it a bit, so let's go up just a little to 80. That'll do. I'm going to upper unpeg with U this texture because once again, this is just for convenience as you edit it. If it's not upper or lower unpegged and you're moving it up and down, you can see how it moves with the ceiling. If it's upper unpegged, then you can move that ceiling all you like and it'll stay in alignment. Alright, I'm going to put the grid size. No, I'm not going to mess with the grid size. You can also do it when you're already drawing, which is quite welcome. Alright, let's see, maybe we want about that much. Alright, and let's reduce my grid size again. There we go. Let's see, so where did I get to? I got to floor is 112 and it's 136 there, so if we take these stairs again, we should easily have enough room to make the stairs up to there. Yep, no problem at all. Okay. So let's move these up just slightly so that the stairs end at 136. That's 112. That's 112, so I don't need this top one. Let's just stretch that out to there. Stretch that out to there. So I've just got a short flight of stairs up to here. I'm going to move this up again. That's height 64. Let's copy and paste the brick texture there, upper unpeg it. And I'm going to make this a little bit higher as well so that we've got rooms for the top of the door frames on each of these, even though the doors are different heights. Alright, so we're going to make a long window, maybe a pair of long windows, that overlook an outdoor area. Going to see, maybe 256 wide. Will I have enough room for two of them? I do, easily. So I'm going to make two indents. These are eventually going to become our windows. And on the other side, I'm just going to draw a big sector here with an irregular shape. And we're going to put our outdoor scenery out here. I didn't mean to join this vertex with that, but that's easily fixed. We can draw a new line, go to sector mode, and just delete that one. Alright, so this doesn't look very outsidey at the moment, you'll notice. So we're going to have to do some work here. Let's move this up 2 first and this down 2. We're going to define the shape of our windows. And now on this side, we're going to drop this down, maybe about that far. Let's again copy and paste these textures around. And on the ceiling, of course, we want to have our sky. We're going to put the F sky texture in there. Okay. We'll retexture this eventually. So we've got our fortress walls. I'm actually going to add some vertices and peel those back so that I'm going to do a bit of a trick here, and I don't want the player to see it. I don't want the player to be able to get there. That'll do, I think. Alright. So there's a special thing in Doom's rendering of skies that if you have a sector that doesn't have a wall texture, or it can even have a wall texture, just as long as it has a sky texture on its ceiling. That means that Doom won't render a wall, as it usually will, and it would just let the sky bleed through. It's very difficult to describe until you see it in action. I'm going to press Tab here to stop the rendering of special things, and you can see we've just got the sky here now. Just got the texture that represents the sky. So I'm going to pull these down, and usually you'd expect to see the missing texture if I were to do that on anything normal. But if I press Tab again to turn on the sky rendering, you can see that we've now got a gap, and it looks like the wall is lower here. This doesn't look good because if you can see through this window, and I turn Tab off again, you can see how it's overlapping that wall. And we can just solve that by changing the vertices, making sure it's basically convex. So what I'm going to do here, and I'm going to make this grass texture. Going to go to Things mode, dot some trees around. And I'm also going to make it rise a bit towards the back. Let's use a nice rocky texture for that. Something from outdoors. Maybe Ashwall 4. And we're going to make this Ashwall 4 as well. You can see why I hid this corner around here, so that the player can't see it, because it looks really bad when the wall adjoins another sector that's part of the sky. It looks like the wall's made of cardboard. Something that you can see in IWAD levels, actually, in Hell Keep. The titular Hell Keep is just a rubbish cardboard prop. Okay. That'll do for now. I also like to darken sectors of the outside as they get further away. Alright, and you can go as mad with this as you like. You can have a little lake if you like, put a waterfall in. River running through the outdoors. When I make a waterfall, I make a little dent like this. And I'm going to join the sector with Shift J to make it the same height as the river. So now I'm just going to use Ashwall all over the place. Here's a flat where we can put some F water. Here's where I was going to say we can put a waterfall, but here's the interesting thing, we can't. And that's because there isn't a waterfall texture in default Doom 2. You have to go into the TNT and Plutonia mods to do that. So I'm going to change my plan here for the time being. I'm just going to make this a boiling river of blood instead. So that's B-fall 1. Let's knot that down a bit. More ash wall. I'm going to change that into blood 1. Alright. Okay, back to what I was doing here now that we've got our window and outside. As it is, because these windows are very large, the player would be able to hop out of them. And we can prevent that by putting in actually a couple of things. Either we could simply stop the player from going out of here, and we could do that by selecting these two lines and just declaring them impassable and block monsters. And that way the player would not be able to go over them even if they tried. Doesn't often look very good, so in addition to that, we might want to use some mid-textures, which are textures you can place on the middle of the line depth. Usually you have upper here, you've got lower here, and in the middle is a gap if you've got a two-sided line depth, so you can see through it. What we're going to do instead is select both of these lines, and we're going to use a mid-texture. Often these are called mid something. Let's use... is mid-bars going to be... Is mid-bars going to be the right size? Almost. It's pretty good. Just going to hide that. Alright. That is just visual. The player will still be able to go through them. And you can also see that if you go around the other side, they're invisible. You have to make sure that you set the texture on both sides. Shifting up to shift the texture around, and then we've got that. Okay. And we're going to... I was going to put the block the player line on the line that we just created, but I think it would actually be better on the front of the window instead. That would prevent them getting caught up in the windows. Alright, let's lay one more trap here. Little door with some room for monsters beyond it. We'll just do the same on the other side. And once again, those have defaulted to just being open and free. So we're going to this time move the floor up. And for secrets like this, or surprises that aren't doors for the player to use, I usually like raising the floor to the ceiling instead of the other way around. Just because I then don't have to remember to set my pegging onto the line desk to the side. But it really is very much up to you. Alright, this time let's tag them both. Select both sectors. Get me a new tag. That's tag 4. And when the player just steps into here, I'm going to draw a line to act as a tripwire. Go into lines mode, press F to flip it round, so the front is where I expect the player to be. We're going to tag this one 4 as well, and the action is going to be a floor action this time. That's walk 1, floor raised to lowest ceiling, no. Floor lower to highest floor, well, that one would work. I think that might be the one we use. Oh, here's floor raised to next higher floor, fast, that sounds good, but they're all raises. And this is the trouble with the original Doom format, that sometimes the actions you want are just not there. We will use this one. Alright, so that will affect both of those. What's going to come out of there? Am I feeling mean enough? Yeah, I am feeling mean enough. I'm going to put a Revenant there. And at the same time as you're dealing with that Revenant, I'm going to put a couple of pink demons. Actually, just one pink demon. There isn't really a lot of room. Let's see if I can make some more. And that'll catch the player so that they can't run away very easily. This fight is not going to be much fun without cover, so I'm going to add just a little bit. Let me reduce that grid size so I can get a 32 by 32. And just take notches out of both sides. I'm going to make this one. I'm going to extend that a bit. And I'm going to put an alcove here. Just lower the ceiling of that. And just by fiddling with ceilings, it is incredible how much you can do. Okay. So now the player has got a route up to the top level. And my plan here is I'm going to try to get them over to this platform. There's no way that they'll be able to jump from there to there, so I'm going to give them a bit of assistance. And I'm going to put another sector, let's put it here. And that, at the start, is going to be part of the lava. I'm going to tag this sector, tag 5. So let's give them a switch to pull. When you're doing things that are going to be diagonal, it often helps to do them straight first, and then go into your sector, select that, go into E for edit selection mode, and drag them out to be diagonal, and then you get a line that's exactly 64 units long. And that just helps with the texture. Let's have a look. What kind of switch can this be? Let's do another red skull switch so that it stands out a bit from the surrounding area. Alright, we're going to say on this switch, we want this tagged as 5. And we want to raise that section of the lava up. So this is another floor action. And we're going to say W1 floor raised to next higher floor changes texture. And that is specifically for situations like this. The action is a bit strange and counterintuitive, because what this action does is it will raise this, that's the easy part, and once it reaches the top, it's going to clear any harmful actions that were on this sector. I think it just resets the sector effect to 0, but I'm not absolutely sure. And it will change the texture on the top to the texture immediately in front of the switch on the floor. You would be forgiven, and I thought this until very recently, that it would match the floor texture that it ended up next to, but it doesn't. It's the one in front of the switch. Let me see. I don't think that's quite going to do it either, so I'm going to put a little helper onto here as well. We'll see how it works out. We can always adjust it if we need to. Okay, so that's that dealt with. The player now has a route over here, hopefully. Once they get here... Oh, that doesn't look very good down there. I'm going to split this up and make that part at the top. Once they get here, I'm going to give them a skull key. Let's just join these sectors so I don't have that line getting in the way. And make a little plinth in the hope that the player might be able to see the skull key from further away. They might not, because this is just such a tall sector, but the thought is there. I'm going to put it in a little alcove in the wall. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hopefully that's going to let them grab it. We're going to say the red skull key. There we go. Having got the red skull key, they will then be able to get up here. They'll be able to open this door that I'm about to draw. And we're going to give them a tunnel that leads to the exit. Let me bring that in just a bit so it's 16 long. We'll bring this ceiling down so that it's 128 tall. Again, upper unpeg, upper unpeg. And this time I'll show you that there are some shortcuts you can do. I tend to manipulate everything myself, but you can go to Tools when you're in Sector mode. You can't go to Tools when you're in Sector mode. Sectors when you're in Sector mode. Make Door. And from here, you can just select the textures that you want to be applied. There's Big Door 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's use Big Door 6. Door track on the outside. Ceiling can be what, I wonder? Seal 5-1. Floors are Rock 15. Now, because of some stupidity on the part of whoever made this form, it was me, you also need to tick Apply Action Specials. What that means is it will apply the line actions to the outsides of the door that will make it act as a door. I added this checkbox because I found that I often didn't want to do it, because the door was to be opened remotely, but I think I should have made this checkbox checked by default. You can also apply a tag as well, and it'll just search for the first unused tag if you want the door to be opened remotely. But for this one, we can apply action specials. And that's all done this automatically. It's just raised, it's lowered the ceiling to the floor, and it's handled all the actions for us. There we go, that looks good. Alright, trouble is, it's not put the right actions on, because we've got a DR door, open, wait, close, also monsters. We want instead to be using one that requires a key. And one of these, I'm going to go to the filtered view again. There, let's use D1 door red open stay. In the original Doom format, you can't tell the difference between red skull keys and red key cards. They're effectively the same thing. If you're using UDMF, you can actually differentiate between them and have 6 keys to a map instead of 3. It is polite to let the player know that they are encountering a red door before having to go up and try it. And sometimes people use red torches for that in hell levels, but I've used red torches all over the rest of the level as well, so that wouldn't be very clear. One of the classic ways to do it is using a border, either door red or door red 2. I'm going to cut those in half, actually. Got too many vertices here. Doesn't really matter. So we've got one row of skulls depicting that this is a door that you want a red key for. For the exit, I'm going to make another little outside area. Going to make it look like this ground's cracked in front of the player. Going to drop this down so the player can't see it. That can be anything. I'm going to raise this ceiling up again so the player can't see it. Let's apply the sky. And let's make that illusion as well that the player is going to face the sky instead of the sky being all the way up in the ceiling. I'll do it with without all that turned off this time. There we go. Actually, I'll bring it all the way down. There we go. So that the way the player just looks like they've got an escape into some empty space. Maybe it might look better if I gave them a little step down. I don't know if they'll even see it, but I can try. It's very easy to experiment. Let's put some grass there. The player can't really see it, but you know, it's the thought that counts. All right. This, of course, isn't actually going to do anything on its own. What we're going to do is make another tripwire. Exits, like any other actions in Doom, are handled with line actions and tags. We're going to say exit. Usually in the tech-based Doom levels, you'll see switches that exit the level. This time we're going to use walking to exit the level. I have never seen using a gun to exit the level, and I hope I never do. You can also see that we can go to a secret level with these alternative actions. Secret levels are defined in another place entirely. So we're going to exit the level W1. Alright, so let's go through this entire map now without monsters, just to check that the flow of it's okay and that it behaves how we think it does. Alright, so we do a fight in the courtyard, we get into the castle, get down here, we pull the switch that raises this platform up. Don't really like how it cuts off at the top there, we might have to fix that. And then we've got a straight shot over to here. We can check this door. It says you need a red key to use it. We're going to walk over that line, which springs that trap. We can get up to the highest level and pull that switch. We can't pull that switch. And there's the red key, or the sticky toffee pudding, as it happens in my pack. I just jumped there. We can disallow jumping elsewhere, but for the sake of demonstration. Then once we've got that, we can get to here and we can dash to the exit. Good, let's see what happens with our floor. W1, floor raised to next higher floor, because I used a W action instead of an S. What a classic mistake. Let's see, S1, floor raised to next higher floor, changes texture. Well done if you were shouting at me before to change that. So let's see if that gives us a good enough run-up. There are some very useful cheats you can use in GZ Doom to just debug your level. Fly is a nice simple one. You can bring the console down with the backtick key. I suppose you call it the tilde key in America. There we go. It's taking its time, but it is getting there. And now you can see here as well, I've missed out a wall texture down there, and the floor is just bleeding through down to there, which causes a strange visual effect. So we'll remember to stick that wall on. Let's just run off the end of there, and we can get to the red key like we expect. At this point in the video, something terrible happened to my sound, as you can see with the red X in the bottom right corner, and the video didn't capture any of my microphone for the remainder of the duration. So what you're going to get now is me watching my own video back, trying to remember what I was thinking, narrating it through, and I hope that by some miracle it'll all come together. In this next part, I'm thinking about how the map works with monsters this time, and giving the player the weapons and the ammunition they need to get through the encounters. So the super shotgun goes down there. In a more normal-sized level, you possibly wouldn't have the super shotgun this early on, but I want to step up the level of encounters now, and I'd like the player to have the weaponry that they require to deal with that. So to add these encounters, what I'm going to do is add a couple of new sectors to the map. I'm highlighting tag 2 here, because what this action does, you can see in the bottom left, is floor raised to next higher floor. And we can add some separate sectors with tag 2, and the result of that will be, when we walk over that line, these sectors will separately raise to the next higher floor. So we're going to put a couple of monsters into them and reveal those monsters as the player walks through the room back from pulling that switch. In the north one, we'll put a chain gunner so that the player has to worry about hit scans and get behind cover. And in the bottom one, I hesitated for a bit. I thought I was going to put a Hell Knight in there, but eventually I chose the Revenant. And after that, I realised that I should offer the player a bit more cover from the Revenant's homing missiles. I eventually hit on adding a new column, and that's done by drawing it out, and then highlighting it in sectors mode with S and pressing delete to cut that section out of the level. Then I can copy and paste the textures on, and use the shift and the arrow keys to get the textures to where I want them. At the bottom there you can see the textures cut off, so now I'm trying to find if there's a space where the texture will look good at the bottom and the top, and I'm unable to find one. So now I'm going to cut out bits of the ceiling to give more detailing and to give the pillars somewhere to go so that they get out of sight and the player doesn't see the texture cut off at the top. Select those two and raise them up. Just 64 units will do. I'm just going to copy and paste those walls, select all of those textures and use Control and down to get them back to where I want to be. And now you can see that they're disappearing into the ceiling and the player doesn't worry so much about the visible seam where the texture hits the ceiling. I turned that sector around there when I copied it so that the line that is facing the map would be on the outside. It actually doesn't matter because there was nothing special about that line. But if there were an action line on the left-hand side, I would have rotated it to the bottom there. Deciding to put a few more imps in to give the player something to worry about from the left-hand side while they're facing the chain gunner and the Revenant. Now I'm dotting some ammunition around, just thinking about how much ammunition the player is likely to have spent and where they would want to explore to replenish it. I have a habit of setting up encounters and then immediately putting medikits there to apologise for them. And that's something I'm trying to get away from. I'm trying to make medikits more sort of exist in the level and have the player remember where they are or just observe where they are and then let the player deal with that resource instead of dotting them regularly throughout. It's definitely something that is very much open to interpretation as to how well it works. Some maps have far too little health for me, some maps have far too much. Mostly my maps have far too much health, is the general opinion among other people. So I'm trying to train myself to be a bit less generous. Adding a couple of torches now to the exit corridor, just to give it a bit more decoration. And let's try that level. I put that on no monsters by mistake. We do want monsters this time. So that's how you change it. Alright, we've got the shotgun. I remember apologising because my computer's sound is off at the moment, so that the sound didn't bleed into the microphone. But we just about make it through. Alright, here's the main part of the fortress, where demons are going to come at us from both sides. I got caught on a demon there when I was trying to dodge the fireball. And you can see that I have to adjust my attention quite a lot because there are all kinds of different attacks, hit scans, fireballs, and they're coming from different angles, different heights. This fight got started without me, as I was fighting the demons up there. So I'm going to show you later how you can avoid that happening and have greater control over when monsters wake up. One of the options is to just set their ambush flag. but I'm going to talk about sound blocking lines when I get out of this. Not a great fan of how the platform cuts off at the top there, and you can see it going. So we'll fix that later. The other thing we have to fix later is that I forgot to tag those boxes when I put them in, so obviously they'll have no effect when I walk back through the room. But there's our Revenant and Demon Trap. That works well enough. I want to do something to keep the player back a bit more in that corridor, so I make a note to add another enemy that's just there in the corridor. Alright, there's our box of Sticky Toffee Pudding, which is the sprite that I replaced the red key with. I've got an auto load to help with my colour blindness, and that is the end of the level. Okay, first of all, we want to tag those sectors correctly. And then we want to turn our attention to here where the monsters woke up. Like I said, you can add ambush flags, but the other thing to do is to go into sound propagation mode and to talk a bit about how sound works in Doom. So when a weapon's fired and for monsters waking up, the distance doesn't matter, there's no sound attenuation or anything. All that matters is that the player fired or punched their fist in the same sound zone as the monster is. They're coloured individually on these in sound propagation mode so that you can see how they work together. A sound can pass for as long as it doesn't cross over two sound blocking lines, or two sectors that are ceiling and floor are the same. So closed doors will cause a sound zone to separate from another sound zone. And there are two other things, and there are two ways you can do, and there are two ways you can do that. You can go into the sector properties and use the block sound property, or the easier way is to use this sound propagation mode that Doom Builder has, and to click on them to toggle the block sound property. And if I click on all of these that form the windows and door, you can see that now the area on the left is in a separate sound zone from that on the right. So if I'm in the starting room and I fire a pistol, then the monsters aren't going to hear it. I'm going to have to be outside before the monsters react to sound. They'll still be able to see me, but they won't wake up if I make a sound in that room. I'm going to copy and paste another demon here. Going to make that ambush so that he doesn't wake up before he's meant to. I think back there in the sound propagation mode I also put sound blocking lines on the outside and inside of the little corridor that leads down to the semicircle. So that means the monsters won't be woken up like they were before. Alright, we're going to test this again. We'll demonstrate by firing the pistol a bit. And once I go out here, you can see that the imp had not woken up this time. He had been unable to hear the sound of my weapon firing, and he only woke up once he could see me. Here's our optional room that I didn't go into last time. I think there should possibly be more of an incentive to go into here. But we'll see what we can do about that. Alright, main room again. We're taking the same route as last time. We're about to get an absolutely disastrous demon bite. Yeah, we actually got quite a few things hitting us at the same time there. I thought that I had just been very unlucky with the demon bite and it had taken off the maximum health possible, but it was really a few things that hit me at once. So now I'm going back scavenging for health. I noticed that I hadn't picked that up, and there's the one at the entrance as well. And now I feel just about ready to go and join this fight down here. This time they haven't been woken up because there were those sound-blocking lines. This is quite a cramped area. You have to keep track of the movements of a lot of monsters, which makes it a harder fight than it might otherwise would be. Giving the player less room to move is really how to make... It's one of the simplest ways of how to make Doom more difficult. Just make them unable to dodge and having to deal with more monsters around them. So here's where I show off my famous Revenant dodging skills. Fortunately hit the chain gunner, which is quite nice. Decided to move to the chain gun myself because I was shooting over a distance. Took care of everything there. And now we're going to go into our little trap corridor with the outside area. This time the demon distracts us. I was very lucky with avoiding that Revenant's punch. I would like to attribute it to skill, but I can't. Nice little view of outside, and we're on our way again. The challenge of the monsters pretty much ends on this level once you've gone through that corridor, so I possibly want to add some more monster encounters that happen when you pull that switch or when you pick up the red key. And that is the end of that level. So we've got our monsters and our basic flow now, and the next video will be about adding some secrets, adding some detail to the map, and generally polishing it.